This month marks the 25th anniversary of the Battletoads franchise. It released originally on the Nintendo Entertainment System on June 1st, 1991. Now, my accompanying article on Examiner will talk a little bit more about the history and how this series came to be, but for this video portion, I'm just going to be talking about my personal history with the franchise and the games that I played and whatnot. So let's begin with the original NES game, Battletoads. Now, most people don't remember Battletoads as being a fantastic game. They remember it for being a bastard of a game. It is a very, very hard game and hard series in general. I think my title for the Examiner article is going to go something like Toad Souls. It is the Dark Souls of brawlers, the original Big Daddy. Now, it's not impossible. There are some sections of the game that are really, really tricky without some kind of cheat code. And, you know, I do like the graphics. I think they hold up pretty well for a Nintendo game, and the music is also pretty catchy. But damn if it's not hard. I, myself, never made it past the third level, which is a speeder bike thing, which has fantastic music, but holy hell, it is a lot of memorization you have to go through. But I do remember playing this with my cousin at his house sometime in that Nintendo generation. I don't know how old I was. But I remember him getting through part of the game because he had a Game Shark, or Game Genie, I can't remember which he had. But yeah, I got to actually see most of the game. I don't remember him ever beating it, and I of course never beat it, but I have some pretty fond memories of playing co-op or just watching my cousin kind of go through the parts that I've never seen before. The farthest I can remember in that game is like a weird maze with like a snake thing, and yeah, a lot of people joke that it's impossible to beat, but it can be done, and it can be done without cheat codes. And to those of you that have done it, I'm sure there's lots of YouTube channels about that, but my hat's off to you. This NES version would receive a number of ports, a lot of which were for Sega platforms, but there was a Game Boy version that released in November of 1991, following the original release, and it's actually a different game, though it looks very, very similar to the original. This one is called Battletoads in Ragnarok's World. And I never played it growing up. Playing it now, it really is kind of like a remixed version of the original, which is kind of a trend that happened a lot with Game Boy games. This happened to like Mega Man, for example, and I don't really want to get into it that much. It's a fine game and actually looks pretty good for a Game Boy game, but that's just a small snippet on the road here. But let's move on to something I have more practice with, and that is Battletoads in Battle Maniacs, which released in June 1993 for the Super Nintendo. My local theater also had a video rental service and a game rental service, and they didn't have a huge selection on games, at least. But I rented this one a lot because I did enjoy it, even though I could never ever beat it. Like the original, I really never made it that far, and it's kind of framed like the original as well. The first level is like a platform kind of world, except this one's more hellish, and the second one is a vertical scrolling down, and there's a bike level in there, I believe, but there's like a chess thing in there as well. Either way, it's still really, really hard. And unlike the original, I never got to see that much of it, even though I really could. Actually, after I'm done watching this, I should watch someone play that expertly on YouTube. I should, you know what? Why are you even watching my video? Just go watch someone else. I'm sure they have better knowledge on this thing, at least in terms of playing the game. But no, for serious, I rented this game upwards of 10 times. If that's a low ball. And again, I didn't have a lot of games growing up, and I did enjoy it to some respect. Alongside Battletoads and Battle Maniacs, there was also Battletoads and Double Dragons, which released on that same month in 1993 in June for the Nintendo. Now, I didn't play it until the Super Nintendo port later that fall, and it's the only game I owned. Now, I don't remember if I picked it up used, or if I got it cheap as a present somewhere, or how it came to be, but I still have it in my collection today, and it is a crossover between Battletoads and the Double Dragon boys, Billy and Bimmy, or Jimmy Lee and Billy, something like that. Anyway, the two teams team up to fight evil on both sides, and it is pretty fun. It's actually easier than the other Battletoads games, and it I really don't like the look. I never liked the look. In terms of Super Nintendo games, it isn't great. But that's because, it was ported from, originally it was made for the NES. And I never really played that version or any other version. I really should have for this, but I kind of want to focus on my memories of the games that I actually played, but also include games in the whole franchise, the Game Boy thing. Anyway, it's a fun co-op game. I remember playing with a lot of friends. I even played with my sister and dad at times, but we could just never ever beat it. It was easier, but it was still pretty hard. Finally, the last game in the franchise was released for arcades in 1994. Who knows when, but it is simply titled Battletoads Arcade. And like the other games, it is actually easier because you can just throw coins into the machine to get an infinite amount of lives as long as you have an infinite amount of coins. And if you emulate it, like I did for this retrospective, it is the easiest game by far, since you can just, tap a button and look, I put a coin in. Also, funnily enough, it was published by EA. Also, funnily enough, it is a bloody game. The first time I saw blood was like, whoa, is this like a fan game? Because it just, it looked like Battletoads, but the blood is so kind of weird. And also, like, a lot of these characters are kind of, they look very similar to a lot of things they encountered in the other games, but it just, it just kind of threw me for a loop. I was really incredible. I never ever heard of this game growing up. And I went to a lot of arcades too, and I never ever saw this game. And it's kind of a revelation because I think it's a really cool game. Maybe just that pixelated blood that just gets my my gamer boner so happy. It just kind of this is really why I do retrospectives and look at things, because it just makes me so happy to uncover these hidden gems and treasures. And but anyway, past this point, there was a cartoon that had a pilot, and believe you and me, Real Pixels will have an episode on that one episode, because it never got picked up because it was really bad. It was really bad. I watched it when it came out in 1992, and I don't remember it, but it wasn't good. But recently, since Microsoft has gained the rights from Rare since they bought them, Rash, I believe, was the Battletoad that made his appearance in Killer Instinct in one of the seasons. I believe it was season 2 of it. And then the Battletoads were also an optional boss in the Shovel Knight port to the Xbox One. So are these kind of testing the ground for a new Battletoads? Really, what would a Battletoads game even be nowadays? Would it be 3D? Should they make like a remake, a 2D thing, a downloadable title? Should it be a literal Dark Souls game, but a Dark Souls brawler where you make your own toad and you're trying to save the other toads, and you're just beating the shit out of, classic monsters and things from the series? That actually might be pretty good. But it's just, again, nostalgia has a big part of why people remember the series. They think they want another Battletoads game, but they actually don't. But, for the most part, a lot of these games actually look nice. The music is, pretty great among all the titles. They're just super hard. And, I don't know. But either way, if we get a new game, cool. If not, then whatever. But by and by, I wish the series a very weird 25th anniversary. And until next time, I'm hopping out like a toad, like a Battletoad, aka I'm going to space.
Boom ba-jack, boom boom ba-jack, boom ba-jack, boom boom ba-jack, boom ba-jack, boom boom ba-jack, boom ba-jack, boom boom subscribe, boom ba-jack, boom boom ba-jack, boom ba-jack, boom boom ba-jack, boom ba-jack, boom boom ba-jack, boom ba-jack, boom